The Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by Sound and Communications, soundcomav.com. Sound systems for your football field, arena, gym, amphitheater, baseball field. They've worked at the Power 5 level in the SEC, G5, junior college, high school. Also, video walls for your law firm, technology firm, CPA firm, your business. Video walls for your school. They look great. Lobbies, conference rooms. Soundcomav.com. Sound and Communications. We are the Out of Bounds Show. We welcome in our friend Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus. He's got the podcast, YouTube, the site, pff.com, sharing all their wisdom and numbers with us on a daily basis. pff.com. Steve joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Steve, before we get into football, I'd like to talk about something pretty important. It's National Fast Food Day, and we were breaking down, kind of tiering out Tier 1, Tier 2 fast food establishments. Jason went with Taco Bell as number one, which I thought was a crime, probably a felony. And I went with Cane's, but I don't know if y'all have Cane's up there because it's out of Baton Rouge, and I'm not sure it's made its way. It's just a chicken strip place. Excellent. When you think of fast food, what is your favorite establishment?
So we do have Cane's. So if Cane's counts, it's certainly better than Taco Bell. What does Chick-fil-A count?
Heck yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'd go Chick-fil-A and Cane's. We have a Chick-fil-A directly across the street from Cane's. So it's like direct competition. Cane's goes nuts on Sundays, obviously.
Oh, man.
But I'd take either one of those way ahead of Taco Bell. And then dead last for me is McDonald's, because I have not eaten McDonald's by choice before 2 a.m. since 1998. And I intend to keep it that way.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat as far as McDonald's as you. So y'all have got Cane's up there? That's awesome. I didn't realize they had.
There's a couple. There's a couple up there.
By the way, for our listeners, Steve Palazzolo, pff.com, he lives in Cincinnati, Ohio. So what's the weather like up there today?
It's about 50 right now. It's one of those, it's like really cool in the morning, but it's going to get up to 70 today. So
Really?
we're almost in the south. You know, I live 10 minutes from Kentucky. And, so it's kind of like a little southern weather, but then you get some northeast-ish type of weather at times too.
Okay.
So it's confusing times here in Cincinnati is what it is.
Yeah, I understand. We're going through a little bit of that too here. So how far are you from Cleveland, Ohio?
It's about 4 hours. We're the very south part of Ohio, and Cleveland's right at the top.
All right.
North.
So the weather patterns are significantly different, right?
Yeah, and Cleveland's got the lake effect and everything. So, one of those, like, it could snow at any time. And, yeah, Cleveland's completely different.
All right. Let's talk Dak Prescott. I know it was the Giants, but it still counts. How did you grade out Dak Prescott last week?
Yeah, it was one of the best games of the season for any QB. I mean, I think Dak, if you look back at his season, he's had maybe 3 of the best games of the season for any quarterback. I think he's had some duds in there as well, obviously. But this past week, take out the interception, that was one bad throw. Everything else was pristine. I mean, downfield accuracy, decision-making, it was outstanding. So I think, Dak, I'm starting to see him get some love with the shouty shows, which is great. Because he's on this 3 or 4 game stretch where he's played extremely well. I thought he played really well in the Eagles game despite the loss. So yeah, Dak played awesome against the Giants the other day.
And when you look at Prescott and the Cowboys, they got Brandon Cooks involved, and you and I have been talking about that the last few weeks. How impactful could that be down the stretch as they're trying to, jockey for a playoff spot?
I felt like I didn't have a good answer last week, right? When we were talking about why has Brandon Cooks not been involved? Like, I don't know. And then he goes out there and has over half of his receiving yards for the season in one game against the Giants, showing that Brandon Cooks can still play. I mean, Giants are not. Their defense is an absolute train wreck, and they got torched by the Cowboys. But, again, Cooks in that offense, given the way CeeDee Lamb has played in being that true number one that you can move around and create mismatches, just like any other number one, there will be games where teams say, no way, we're not letting CeeDee Lamb beat us. And when that happens, the Cowboys need answers. And, Nick Ferguson's been a nice option in the middle of the field as a tight end. But I kept saying, look, it has to be a Brandon Cooks. It has to be a Michael Gallup. But Cooks in particular, because of his track record of success as a good route runner with speed, ability to get behind the defense at times, they're going to need that. And I think, Cooks showed that he's capable of that. I don't think he's going to go for $170 every single week, but there'll be some of those games against good teams where they're going to need Brandon Cooks, and I think he showed on Sunday that he's still capable of putting up a big game.
I loved seeing it. Steve Palazzolo, PFF.com, Pro Football Focus. He's got the podcast. Follow Steve on Twitter at PFF_Steve. Okay, CeeDee Lamb said he was the best receiver in football. He's not. But where does he rank according to Pro Football Focus?
I know he's our highest graded over the last 3 or 4 weeks. So in this short sample size, he's up there. I think he's pushing the top 5 for this year. Because you see a drop off in production from a guy like Devontae Adams, who is sitting atop there. You're seeing Justin Jefferson dealing with injury, but you'd have to say A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, and Tyreek Hill. They're the class of wide receivers in the NFL. Jamar Chase, right in that top 4. But I think CeeDee, I'm trying to think if I'm missing. Cooper Kupp, when he's fully healthy, is in that conversation in the top 5. But I think CeeDee Lamb's right up there in that top 5. But if he keeps playing like this, the way he has these last few weeks, again, a guy that can win at all levels, win after the catch, win at the catch point, win inside or outside. That's the type of impact that all those other guys that I mentioned that they have. So in the last few weeks, CeeDee Lamb is having a similar impact as all those guys, and A.J. Brown and Tyreek Hill. So if he keeps it up, sure, he can say whatever he wants, but he's certainly in that top 5 conversation the way he's been playing.
All right, where is Dak still at 9 for 8 or 9, whatever you told us the last 2 weeks, or is he at 7 or 8, 6?
He might be up at 4 now. Because remember I said, the difference between – I got to double check, but the difference in our rankings at this point, it's really clustered at the top.
Sure.
And it really is like a handful of throws here and there, or one, not handful of throws really, but one great game can really vault you.
Okay.
And I think you saw that from Dak because, we're grading every player on every play, but 9 or 10 games into the season, one game can have a pretty significant impact. I think Dak may have jumped into the top 5 over the last week.
All right. We're visiting with Steve Palazzolo on the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN, talking NFL. I devoured the NFL on Sunday. It was fantastic, and I think it's setting up for just a phenomenal November and December finish to see what we get in January. Pro Football Focus, PFF.com. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. So the Cowboys play at the Panthers, and I know the Panthers aren't good, but in this league, just about anybody can beat anybody. Is 10.5 points, is that too many, or is this something that the Cowboys should check this box, take care of business, get in and out? How do you see this one?
I don't think it's too many. I didn't think 16.5 was too many last week against the Giants. I thought, you could have put a 24 on there, and I'm still thinking, I think kind of like the Cowboys here. The Cowboys are the best team at beating up bad teams. And no matter how many times they do that and look impressive, the question's still going to be, well, what are they going to do against the Eagles and the 49ers? What are they going to do against the best teams? So we're still not going to get any answers about the Cowboys this week. But, yeah, they're the type of team that can cover any of those spreads. I think the only thing that would give you pause is, the Panthers changing up play caller to Frank Reich. And you just never know when a team that looks bad is just going to click and play hard. And one of these weeks, I think Bryce Young is going to look better. But it does look like an absolute mismatch because the Panthers' offensive line is a disaster. The Cowboys' defensive line feasts on bad offensive lines. All of the matchups are in Dallas's favor. I don't think the 10.5 really scares me too much if you're looking at the Cowboys.
Nice. All right. I'd love a 17-point win, get out of there, keep rolling. Steve Palazzolo talking NFL.
The Cowboys have played 3 entertaining games this year for non-Cowboys fans. That's it.
That's true.
3 games.
That's true.
Cowboys fans must love most of them, but for anyone else, not entertaining. Sorry, carry on.
So they got blown out by the 49ers, and then they blow people out. And like you said, there's only a couple of going down to the 4-quarter games, like Philly.
That's it. Monday night, Chargers, the Eagles game, maybe the Cardinals game because they lost, but that was it.
Yeah.
Everything else was a blowout.
That's right. That's right. This interview is brought to you by Boar's Head, premium meats and cheeses, charcuterie board, and the NFL on Sunday, powered by Boar's Head. Compromise elsewhere. Let's go to tonight's game. Jason wants to talk about the Bengals and the Ravens. And, look, 3.5 points. This is a heck of a matchup in Baltimore tonight. Are you going Ravens or are you going Bengals?
Oh, man, it is a great game. I think people here in Cincinnati a little shocked by the Texans coming in on Sunday and beating them. It was supposed to be this buffer game with the Bengals looking like the hottest team in the NFL. They were the hottest team in the NFL, the best looking team. It's a great game. I will say in the Zach Taylor era, I don't know if Zach Taylor's got the best offensive system or, whatever it might be, the best game manager. But through the last few years, the Bengals have done a great job of bouncing back from disappointment. And so I think there's something to that. And maybe it's just, hey, they have Joe Burrow and, when you have a top 3 quarterback, it helps. But I like the Bengals to bounce back here tonight. Now, the Ravens are obviously coming off their own disappointment. They've got, some ridiculous record where they've led for so many minutes this year. And it's like 3rd most minutes led through 10 games in NFL history. And every other team that's in that range is 10-0, and the Ravens are 7-3. So they've had this bad luck, or just bad bounces, or just like last week, it's a batted pass that bounces up for a pick 6 that lets the Browns back into the game. So the Ravens are a really good team. It is going to be a great game tonight, a great matchup. I'm going to lean Cincinnati here. They're underdogs, but and they've got Trey Hendrickson banged up. Their top defensive end. He's going to try to play. Ronnie Stanley on the other side at left tackle is not going to play for the Ravens. So both teams are hurt. I'm going to say the Bengals bounce back, though, just because they have this history of they'll have disappointing games, but they always seem to stand up the next week and show, play to the best of their ability.
Hold on.
So I'm going to say the Bengals do that.
Did you just describe the Cowboys?
No, because the Bengals win their big games.
Shots fired. Will you hang up on Steve, please?
I am completely objective here. The Cowboys' issue is they beat up on bad teams and lose to good teams. The Bengals actually win all the good games, the big games, right? They're 5-1 against the Chiefs and Bills over the last 2 years. The elite teams, they beat. The Bengals' problem is they'll lose to a bad Jets team a couple of years ago, or bad Browns teams, or whatever it might be. But every time it looks like they should have this disappointment, or they have this disappointment, they come back and play one of their best games the next week. So that's what I'm banking on with the Bengals this week.
All right, so the Cowboys have to beat the Eagles, the 49ers. At some point.
And they can. They're capable. History doesn't necessarily predict the future in that case. The Cowboys are capable. They just have to figure it out.
I think they get the Eagles in 2 more weeks. So in Dallas.
I like them against the Eagles at home. I really thought that those 2 teams are close enough that they'll split the home and away. But the Cowboys-Niners matchup, for whatever reason, the matchup doesn't play well for the Cowboys.
Terrible.
Yeah.
And Shanahan just runs circles around McCarthy. Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus, PFF.com. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Hey, worst franchise in the NFL, in your opinion, in the last 5 years?
Yikes, the worst franchise?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like
Bears?
Yeah, I mean, I know you've got some in mind. I mean, every franchise has had like a little run. The Bears haven't been good since 2018, so you could say that. I also think, I don't know that Ryan Pace is doing a bad job there yet. So I think they might be on the upswing, especially when they have the 2 picks next year. But you could probably put the Bears up there at this point. Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. That's what the Cowboys would be without Dak Prescott.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
They have a much better roster than that.
Okay. All right. I'm not sure I'm sending you a Christmas gift, but it's still up in the air and there's still time here. The Dolphins, or you mentioned the Bengals and you mentioned the Bills and you mentioned the Chiefs. I think I'd throw in the Ravens just because of the way they're run. Just some really, really good teams the last few years. Obviously, the Ravens have been good for a long time, but in the AFC, are you sold on the Dolphins?
No, because of their splits as well. I mean, they are the Cowboys of the AFC.
Okay, fair enough.
So in a couple ways, right? If you look at the Cowboys, they're scoring like 40-something points a game at home. Maybe it's not 40, but it's up there. Dolphins are averaging 43 points per game in the city of Miami at home, and then 23 points per game in every other city in the world, right? I mean, it's a completely different team, but the variable there is when the Dolphins have played outside of Miami, they've played Buffalo when they still were good defensively. They played Kansas City in Germany. I mean, they've played in Philadelphia. So Miami plays the worst teams at home and have crushed them, and they play, good teams on the road. So I think Miami still has to prove that they could beat good teams more than once, right? I mean, they beat Buffalo last year, but like with Tua under center, with Mike McDaniel as the coach, show that they could put a full game together against the best teams in the league. And again, we're not going to learn, I don't think, a whole lot with the Raiders going to Miami this week from the Dolphins. It's going to be what they do come playoff time. Now, are they capable? Yeah, but they feel like a team similar to the Cowboys that are a little, front runner-ish. When things are going well, they can pile it on. They can dominate some teams, but that offense gets slowed down just a little bit against good teams, and that's where they have to have some answers going forward.
Our NFL coverage with Steve is brought to you by Boar's Head and a Boar's Head charcuterie board on Sunday. Boar's Head premium meats and cheeses. Boar's Head compromise elsewhere. I was going to go with, the Browns. Here we go. Deshaun Watson. What is wrong and can it be fixed? Is there a solution with Deshaun Watson?
Well, we won't know till next year now that he's out for the season. But yeah, I think it can be fixed. I mean, Watson second half of last week was really good, playing with a broken shoulder. He certainly, I don't know that he'll play at the Houston Texans level that he played at right before last time we saw him play before this year with 2020. But Watson just had to play good, solid football. He's starting to do that with the Browns because that defense is so good right now. I think their roster, their supporting cast is strong. But yeah, I mean, it's been a dud to this point for Watson overall, but I think it was trending in the right direction. And, we'll see what happens next year coming back fully healthy, but he's still a guy that takes a lot of hits. Injuries might always be a concern for Deshaun Watson, but yeah, right now returns are not good for the Deshaun Watson trade, but I don't think that means the next 3 years are going to be a disaster because he's had plenty of success in past years.
Okay. I hope he can turn it around. Jason's screaming at me to ask about his Minnesota Vikings, and they play the Broncos, who it looks like Sean's got a little something going. I mean, the fire is lit. It may be a little more lighter fluid here. I think people would have looked at that game a couple of weeks ago and gone, whatever. But Kirk Cousins is out. Josh Dobbs. The line's 2.5 Denver. So, I mean, good. There's no telling which way this thing could go. I want you to get into Dobbs too, but break down just briefly this Vikings-Broncos game.
Yeah, I mean, the Josh Dobbs story is just amazing. Obviously, remember him at Tennessee when it was him and Alvin Kamara, Jalen Hurd in the backfield. I mean, he was legit in the SEC, but I never thought he'd be an NFL quarterback. I thought he'd maybe a backup, but I never thought he would do what he's doing right now. The story of going from team to team and picking up offenses. But even when Dobbs was in Arizona this year, like that was a bad team, and he was making them really competitive. They looked like they were trying to tank, and Josh Dobbs is keeping them in every game, and they're backdoor covering, and they're, just hanging tough in almost every single game. And now he goes to the Vikings, where it's a pretty good team. I liked the Vikings a little bit more, I think, than some of my colleagues here at PFF coming into the year. I thought the roster turnover was going to work in their favor, and they look like a good squad. And now Dobbs is out there, and they're adding some QB runs to the mix, and Justin Jefferson's going to be coming back soon. I mean, the Vikings are going to be dangerous in that NFC. And then you have the Broncos coming off. They were an historically bad defense for the first 3, 4, 5 weeks of the season. I didn't think they would be that bad forever. And they just turned it around, right? They were just so extremely bad for 5 weeks. And they've turned it around, played much tighter on the defensive side, cleaner on offense. They still have some lulls on offense where they don't move the ball, but Russell Wilson was always like sneakily playing pretty well earlier in the year, even though the defense was so bad, it was overshadowing the fact that Russell Wilson looked better than he did last year. And that's getting a little bit better every single week. So I think this is going to be a great game. It didn't look like a good game 5 weeks ago. I think it's going to be a great game on Sunday Night Football. Two teams trending in the right direction. And the Vikings, like Josh Dobbs, I'm not saying he's a top 10 to 15 quarterback in the NFL right now, but he's playing like that, and he makes them a very dangerous team. And so, yeah, people have to watch out for the Vikings. Love the way they're coaching. Kevin O'Connell's doing a great job. Vikings are going to be real dangerous in the NFC.
Oh, okay. There we go. Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus, giving the Vikings some love. Let's wrap it up with this real quick. This one is fantastic on Monday night, as you know. Philadelphia Eagles and my guy, A.J. Brown, against Andy Reid and the Chiefs. Who do you like and why in this matchup?
Oh, man. So Andy Reid coming off a bye, which is always huge. And, you know, Nick Sirianni and the coaching job that he's done, the rematch from last year. I think I'm going to lean Chiefs just because of their history and track record. But, man, I think it's an outstanding game. The Eagles are in the middle of the thick of it. They're playing a ton of tough teams. I'll lean the Chiefs. I think their defense has been outstanding. It's about their offense, though, in Kansas City. They're averaging just 23 points a game. Mahomes isn't having the best year. The receivers are inconsistent, but you know that they're going to have different answers, right? They're going to spend the bye week, figure out, you know, a few little wrinkles to win this game. So I'll say Kansas City comes out on top in another epic game. I think it'll be another good back and forth game between these two teams.
Man, that really is a 40-ounce ribeye, bone-in ribeye. That game on Monday night, Eagles at Chiefs. Hurts, Mahomes, the coaching. That's going to be great. All right, so what you got on tap this weekend?
So I'm going to do my podcast right now. I'm going to preview every single game on the PFF NFL podcast. And what am I doing this weekend? I don't know. Taking care of the kids. I guess the kids are leaving town for about 12 days right after Thanksgiving.
Really?
So I've got they're going to Disneyland without me.
Oh,
Kids,
man.
wife, grandparents. Right in the middle of football season. So I don't know what I'm going to do for 12 days.
Dude, you can eat steak every night. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Lunch and dinner.
Yeah. Lunch and dinner.
Some Boar's Head for the week. It's going to be awesome.
Okay. I love this. Is your wife going to Disney?
Yeah, she's going too. Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome, man.
They're all leaving me.
I hope they have a great time. And you can just binge watch college football and NFL and eat steak all day. And nachos and Boar's Head nachos. All right, Steve Palazzolo.
Great and quiet.
You heard it here first. Cowboys without Dak Prescott would be the Chicago Bears last 5 years.
Yeah,
that's it. We'll talk. Well, I don't know what we're going to do next week with Thanksgiving. We'll figure it out. Be good, buddy.
All right. Thank you.
Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus, PFF.com, brought to you by Boar's Head Nachos on game day. Boar's Head Pizza, or just a delicious Boar's Head Club sandwich at the house. And Boar's Head Charcuterie Board, oh yeah, this weekend for the NFL. Boar's Head, Compromise Elsewhere. Hour number 3 of the Out of Bounds Show. I'm your host, Bo Bounds. We'll be back in a second.